New reporting and fallout this morning over President Trump's claims that the FBI improperly spied on his 2016 campaign. Here is the president's tweet. Reports are there was indeed at least one FBI representative implanted for political purposes into my campaign for president. It took place very early on and long before the phony Russian hoax became a hot fake news story. If true, all-time biggest political scandal. Let's bring in former Justice Department official Robert Driscoll, a little more insight on all of this. And we got to give you credit where credit was due. It was a couple of months ago on this show that you talked about how the president can't be indicted by a special counsel, and that's exactly what the president's attorney then came out and said. So you've got a high bar to live up to. Break this down between the New York Times and Washington Post reporting that the FBI had an informant go talk to a couple members of the Trump campaign and see what they knew about dealings with Russia, and the president's accusations that he was being spied on by the FBI. One man's spy is another man's informant, or something different?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of it. I think all of this devolves into whether there was a valid basis to do any of this in the first place. I mean, if there's a valid FBI investigation going on, the use of confidential informants isn't particularly remarkable. But if there's not a valid investigation going on, then this could be nefarious. And I found when you say valid investigation, you mean did the FBI have a valid reason to begin looking at these campaign? It was Papadopoulos and Carter Page and others, whether indeed they were talking to the Russians or weren't they, or whether the FBI had been ordered, say, by DOJ or by President Obama. Right, exactly. And there's some weasel words in the New York Times article I saw where they mentioned, whoever was leaking to the New York Times, that this type of witness might be used even prior to the opening of an informal investigation or by intelligence agencies other than the FBI. Both of those would be very concerning if, for example, the CIA or the NSA had somebody talking to people in the Trump campaign. But again, if there was a validly open investigation with a valid basis, it wouldn't necessarily be the worst thing in the world. You listen to the president's supporters, it's almost this idea that the president was being set up when he was then candidate Trump by the FBI. You listen to Democrats, they say this is proof of near treasonous behavior. And then you listen to Mark Warner, Democrat of Virginia. It would be irresponsible at best. It would be, at best, irresponsible, and at worst, potentially illegal for members of Congress to use their positions to learn the identity of an FBI source for the purpose of undermining the ongoing investigation into Russian interference in our election. These are big words being thrown around. Right. You know, it strikes me the parallels all the time to the Clinton-Lewinsky scandal. I mean, it's just amazing how partisan it's become, the attacks on a special counsel. I mean, I think of the attacks on Linda Tripp. Remember, she wore the wire and implicated Monica Lewinsky, how one side said she was the most evil person in the world, the other side thought she was a do-gooder. And we're seeing the same thing with whoever this confidential informant is. Everyone's jumping in immediately. Is someone a rat or is somebody somehow truth, justice, and the American way gets lost along the way. Right, and because impeachment's the only remedy, devolution to a completely partisan food fight is in the president's interest because he can't be convicted of impeachment with a number of Republicans in the Senate. Real quickly, though, before we go on this issue of Giuliani who's saying that the president can't be indicted, does this make it more likely that the president sits down with Robert Mueller? We know from Giuliani and John Roberts' reporting that he is going to start being prepped for a sit-down. That doesn't mean it actually happens. Well, I think it gives him a little more leverage in negotiating terms with special counsel, and that special counsel, I doubt, really wants to have a year-long litigation going to the Supreme Court to determine what his authority is to subpoena the president. And so that's a legal fight you could have, but I doubt he wants to have it. And the fact that there won't be an indictment at the end of the day and the president has the ability to walk away probably gives Giuliani a little more leverage to negotiate more narrow terms of that. Well, in John Roberts reporting indicating that Giuliani's already using that leverage about the scope of the questioning, et cetera. Mr. Driscoll, good to see you. We'll see if any of your prophecies prove true. We'll have you back when they do. Thank you.